How long do you need to be with someone before you feel sure about them? Posted by you/Griselda. I've been seeing this guy for a few months now, and I've been unsure about whether we're right for each other in the long term. I enjoy his company, we get along well, and I'm definitely developing feelings for him. He has some amazing positive traits and has treated me well so far. He has also made concrete efforts to meet my needs every time I've expressed them, becoming more responsive and frequent in communicating with me, opening up about his past, and seeing each other more. He's warm, loving, and tries to make my life a little bit easier, which I'm not used to, but man, is it nice. Then why don't I feel sure about him? Every time I feel the need to push a little further in the relationship, I spend days pondering whether to do it, if it's worth it, and whether he'll halt me or respond poorly, which still hasn't happened. I want him to ask about me, but every time he does, rarely, though it has become a little more frequent, I stumble over my words. I'm used to having very close friends with whom I have deep, long, sometimes existential conversations, and it's just not happening with him. When I don't see him for a while, I start feeling like he's a stranger, and then that feeling goes away when we meet, only to come back later. I'm alone on this roller coaster. He seems absolutely fine with how things are, stable and reliable, even. But I still don't feel sure. Sure that this is right for me, sure that he's trustworthy, sure that we have common ground in how we see the world, sure that I have a good grasp of who he is at his core. I thought it was normal at this stage, but I recently talked to some friends, and they told me they were sure, or at least sure enough, pretty early on. So I come here to ask, how long does it take for you to feel that sureness about the person you're seeing? Have you ever had these kinds of feelings, and how did it turn out in the end? Commenter. My first question would be, what were your past relationships like? If they were toxic, had poor boundaries, or were emotionally immature in some way, then anything steady, healthy, respectful, and responsive is going to feel alien and uncertain. The next question is, how emotionally available are you? Answer that honestly. If you're typically used to someone else driving the relationship forward and cracking you like a nut, then when you're faced with something that waits for your cues and puts you in the driver's seat, you're going to sit there idling. Ops response. Thank you for asking this. I've been out of the dating scene for a very long time, hit rock bottom, made some very positive changes in my life, thank God for therapy, and after a while, I went into dating for something casual. That's how things started with this guy, but then they became exclusive and progressed because, well, I liked him. I have been described as avoidant by a couple of exes as come closer, but hey, not too close. That said, I walked into this completely aware of what I did wrong in the past and was willing to open up and be emotionally available. Maybe this is just me finding out that wanting to be open and actually being open are two different things? I'm okay with doing that, but it feels like I'm waiting for some kind of cue from him that he'd care to know more about me, and I'm not getting it, I think. You're spot on about being used to having the other person drive the relationship forward. Funny enough, I don't respond well to that either. Update 1 month later. First of all, so many of you were spot on. Some others weren't, but every comment helped me figure out how I felt and how to proceed. I thought about breaking things off, and the idea pained me. So instead, I did something I was still not 100% comfortable with. I introduced him to a friend. And I know it might sound lame, but in my adult life, I'd never gotten to the point where I was able to get over the anxiety of other people's judgment regarding my choices in partners. This time, I wanted to push through. So first, I asked him, my friend Ray invited me to meet his new girlfriend, wanna join? I was sure he'd come up with an excuse not to, but instead, he agreed right away. He checked more than once about the day and time because, in his words, I don't want to be late and embarrass you in front of your friends. I was expecting to be struck by some huge flaw of his that I hadn't noticed before, but instead, he was lovely the whole night. He insisted on paying for drinks. He got along well with Ray and his girlfriend. On our way back, he said Ray had told him something along the lines of, Op is a nice person, and I can see she's found a good guy, so cheesy, and he was so goddamn happy to have received those words of affirmation from someone so close to me. I could see it. I realized he had known for a while that Ray was my ex, and he had never expressed jealousy or controlling behavior. Instead, he said, I can see you're happy around him, and I'm glad you have such a good friend. And he meant it. Then it clicked. I realized I had been expecting the worst from this poor guy since the day I met him, and all he had shown me was kindness and care. The more I grew to like him, the more I panicked and thought the whole thing was destined to turn sour. Based on what evidence? When a condom broke and we had to discuss what we do in case of pregnancy, and I was afraid his religion would make him rule out termination, he took my hands and said we'd do what I wanted, and he'd be there either way. When I got the chance to land a big new client, he asked me about every development and said he was sure I'd get it because I'm smart, capable, and hardworking. When the handle of my fridge broke, he fixed it. When I first told him about the reasons I've been in therapy for the last 2 years, he was warm and accepting. He asked when my birthday was 2 weeks after I met him. He's asked to meet more of my friends. When his health was acting up and I was worried that if something happened to him, I'd never know, he gave my number to one of his friends and told him to contact me if he was ever in a situation where he couldn't. He has cooked for me and made sure I have enough leftovers to bring to work the next day. After our first few weeks together, he kissed me on the eyes, and I jokingly told him what my mother taught me: when you kiss someone on the eyes, it's the last time you'll see them. He has never done that again. That's the evidence I had that made me so distrustful. I did it all on my own. I felt like such an idiot. I was such an idiot. But after that night, it just clicked. I was relieved. I took a deep breath and relaxed. And it worked like magic, everything fell into place. We're going out more. We're talking more. I can actually fall asleep next to him. A few nights ago, we were joking, and I told him, by the way, I think you're my boyfriend now. No answer. If you agree, I added, almost ready to retreat and pass it off as a big joke. He laughed and said, you were my girlfriend since the first night I spent with you. Not a hint of resentment. It made my heart ache. That's it, I still don't know where this is headed, but I'm okay with just letting it play out and living in the moment. But at least now I'm sure this is the person I want to be with right now.